my name is J. Paul Massey Singh, Chair-elect for the Brampton Board of Trade. On behalf of the Board and Rogers Television, welcome to the City Councillor Candidates Debate for Brampton Wards 7 and 8. The purposes of these debates is to give viewers an opportunity to get to know the candidates in their riding and understand where they stand on key issues. We're pleased to be joined by a large slate of candidates today, starting with Archie McLaughlin, Ajay Malhotra, Khalid Alvi, Manan Gupta, Sohan Singh, Vinay Sehdev, Pat Fortini, Carla Bailey, and Daminder Singh Guman. Prior to this recording, the candidates drew numbers to determine the order in which they'll speak. Each candidate will have the opportunity to make an opening address to you, the viewers, after which time our panel of community members will forward questions to the candidates. The candidates to whom the question will be posed will have the opportunity to answer it, after which the other candidates will also have an opportunity to weigh in and give their opinion. Sitting on our panel today, Steve Shields, CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade, Susan Crawford, Chair of the Brampton Board of Trade, and Badar Shaman, Vice Chair, International Trade, the Brampton Board of Trade. At the conclusion of the question period, each candidate will have an opportunity to make a closing statement to you, our audience. With that said, the individual who drew the first number is Archie McLaughlin, and I now turn it over to him.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Archie McLaughlin, and I'm standing as a candidate for the Brampton City Council, Wards 7 and 8. Many of you may know me as a member of the Royal Canadian Legion or as a former general manager of the St. Vincent de Paul Society. And I was standing in the provincial elections 4 years ago, and many of you voted for me then. And I look forward to you voting for me again. By the way, we just came in right behind the Green Party at that time. I would like to thank you all for voting for me then, and I hope you will vote for me this time. I've lived in Brampton for 30 years, and I've brought up 5 children here, and now 5 grandchildren. So I have a lot invested in the community, and I want to see this community grow. Now, the way to make this community grow is, first of all, we've got to have a great education system. Now, what we want to do is we want to encourage the establishment of a university, and we have Sheridan College. They're keen to start a university here. That will bring in a lot of investment or bring in new business. When Peter Robertson was the mayor here, I was working with him to establish an alternative hospital to bring in Indian medicines, Chinese medicines, and all sorts of alternative medicines. And now we have that opportunity again with the establishment of the new hospital that's close to downtown Brampton. It's in the process of being built. Now, I would also like to see us have a business park built here, and that would encourage business people to establish regional head offices. We have a large Indian community here. Why is the Indian Bank not here and the ICI Bank not establishing a regional head office to provide our community with high-paying jobs? I don't want to see this place just as a dormitory for the GTA. 3 of my children have to go out of the city to get jobs. They can't work here because there's no high-paying jobs here. I would like to see everybody have the opportunity to have those high-paying jobs. Now, I would like to see us, with respect to gridlock, I'm absolutely terrified to go into some of the intersections, especially along Steeles. I would like to see us replace the lights with big roundabouts. Now, the roundabouts in Europe, they actually save lives because cars have to slow down. There's no way you can drive a 20-ton truck through an intersection with a roundabout, so at high speed. They have to slow down. And the results are that 37% of the accidents never happen. There's a 75% reduction in accidents that cause injury, and there's very little major accidents because they're mostly side swipes. Now, property taxes. I hate property taxes just like everybody else. There's no need for our property taxes to go up for the next 3 years. I worked as a management consultant for major global corporations. I went in there, reduced their costs by 8 to 18% just by introducing zero-based budgeting. I've talked to a lot of city employees, and they say that they have lots of ideas, but nobody's taking notice of them. I'd like to talk to the city employees to help us reduce the costs so that we can reduce the taxes if we can. I'm not promising we'll reduce the taxes, but I'm pretty sure we can hold them steady for the next 3 years so we won't have any increases. I'd also like to see the city...
Mr. McLaughlin, that's your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Your ideas, I'm sure, over the next the next hour or so. Mr. Malhotra.
Hi. So I'm Ajay Malhotra. I'm standing for City Councillor for Ward 7 and 8, and I need your support to make this happen. I'm convent educated. I have an undergrad in accounting and economics, so I understand financial accounting very well. I have a master's in IT and 17 years of experience consulting and problem solving for large corporations like Citibank, Bank of America, Motorola, University of Berkeley, and more. I've been a very active member of my local community. I've worked with the city to start Neighborhood Watch in my community. I've gotten a 4-way sign approved in front of our park, which is saving our children. Actively licensed the city for lights in our park. I don't personally believe in sitting on boards so much. I believe in getting the job done. I'm a startup guy. I'm a creative problem solver. I've lived and worked in many cities and many countries around the world, including Malaysia, Singapore, San Francisco, Washington, D.C. And I think Brampton is what I call home now, and Brampton has the potential, but it needs creative problem-solving approaches in the city to make this one of the best places in the world. My platform is about creating a knowledge park in Brampton so we can get high-tech, high-paying jobs in Brampton so people from Brampton don't have to step out to do jobs and waste so much of precious time and commute. I want to go ahead and enhance facilities in our neighborhoods. I want to make sure that facilities are developed at the rate of growth in our neighborhoods. It should not happen that houses are being built, but facilities are lagging far behind. My campaign is all about making sure that seniors do not see a property tax rise. If your pensions are not going up, common sense dictates that your taxes should not be going up either. I want to bring transparency to City Hall, and I think one great way of bringing transparency would be to make things online. We have to make sure that expenses are posted online. We have to make sure all our policies, all our procedures are pasted online. And lastly, I want to go ahead and help the city bring about...
Malhotra, that's your time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Alvi.
My name is Khalid Alvi. I would like to thank you, Board of Trade and Roger Television, to give us this opportunity so I can speak to my Bramptonian. I'm involved in politics last 20 years with the Liberal Party of Canada, and I also run in a municipal election in 2003 and also 2006. I'm living in the ward last 28 years. I know what's going on, what's my people needed in my riding. Also, I need to talk about a couple of major issues, which is I think education to me is very important. Property tax, jobs, and car insurance is too high in Brampton. I talk about in 2003 when I was running first municipal election, we need a world-class city, a world-class university in Brampton 11 years ago. These all politicians are talking about now after 11 years. We need a university and we have to create a university for our kids. Property tax, I was talking about we have built enough houses. We need a business, corporate businesses in the city of Brampton so we can create more jobs and they will pay the tax. The Bramptonians don't have to pay a property tax more. Car insurance. Car insurance is sky high in the country, what we're paying in Brampton right now. We have to bring it down. I know that a lot of people saying this is a municipal issue. I understand this is a municipal issue, but who's paying for it? We have to stand for it, and this is the issues. I'm fighting for it, and I know and I believe it. We can do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Alvi. Mr. Gupta.
Hello, namaste, sat shri akal, assalamu alaikum. My name is Manan Gupta. I'm a long-time resident of Brampton, where I live with my young and growing family, contributing to the cultural mosaic of our great city. Apart from managing the award-winning Road Today media group, which includes Road Today magazine, Road Today truck show, TV and radio, I'm very actively involved in local and regional community-minded safety-based and crime prevention-based organizations where I provide my volunteering and leadership roles. Some of these organizations include Brampton Safe City Association, where I was the president in 2012 and 13. I'm chair of the Brampton Road Safety Committee. I was the founder chair of the Brampton Board of Trade's Multicultural Committee, which is now known as the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. I'm also on the board of William Osler Health Foundation for Holy Gala, where I provide my expertise as working in the media. I also actively support Race Against Racism, which is organized by Peel Regional Police, the Convoy for a Cure, which is focused on breast cancer research. I also support St. John Ambulance for their Operation Red Nose, and like-minded organizations like Seva Food Bank. This election is very critical for Brampton's future. We know Brampton is Canada's 9th largest city, with a population currently standing at around 600,000. In next 15 years, the population is bound to grow to around 900,000. But are we ready? The council recently passed a strategy plan, which, according to the council, it is a living document. But we don't have the right players who will make sure that that strategy document is actually implemented. I'll make sure that I'll be a safeguard to that strategy document so that we have quantifiable achievements which can really improve the quality of life for our generation and for our future generations. We want to make Brampton a world-class city to live, to work, play, pray, invest, and grow. Some of my priorities, which are very common, include, I want to bring back accountability and transparency, which I believe is the hallmark of any public official. I want to make sure that wasteful expenditure is eliminated. Of course, I'll advocate for bringing a university and better healthcare, transit and traffic. This is something which I'm really actively involved because I'm the editor of Road Today magazine. I have some practical.
Thank you. Mr. Singh?
Hello, dear Brampton residents. My name is Sohan Singh. I am your candidate for City Councillor for Ward 7 and 8. I have been a resident of Ward 8 since 2006 and a resident of Greater Toronto area for the last 23 years. I want to bring a positive change for a better Brampton by being a member of the council. I have already been serving the seniors of Brampton through my role as the president of Red Willow Seniors Club in Ward 8 and a member of the Senior Citizens Council of Brampton. I have served community organizations in various leadership roles for the last 15 years. I hold MSc and PhD degrees. My 7-point plan for a better Brampton includes an accountable and transparent City Hall, a sharp focus on new businesses and jobs for everyone, but with special attention to the youth, a concentrated effort to keep property taxes at a minimum level through wise spending and through increase of revenue sources for the city, set up Brampton's own university to allow our citizens to have higher education right within the city of Brampton. Significant new initiatives for seniors include small neighborhood community centers and improved outdoor park facilities. New initiatives bring diversity into City Hall and its long-term planning committees. Have a focused plan to deal with gridlock problems on the city roads and highways. So if you wish to see a better Brampton, please do vote on October 27 for me, Sohan Singh, to be your city councillor from Ward 7 and 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Mr. Sadev?
Brampton is an amazing place to live, not just because of the 750 parks, the 550,000 books in our libraries. Brampton is a great place to live because of the people. While knocking on doors in Ward 7 and 8, I've met a lot of different types of people. People who have lived here for a long time, people who have just arrived. People who are of different race, of different creed, and of different economic class. I was born a Canadian. I'm raised with Canadian values, and nothing is more important to Canadians than the concept of fairness. What gives me hope, though, are the people. People like Iqbal, who volunteer their spare time to provide family counseling. George, who cleans up the parks. O'Neill, who makes sure that all the kids in his community get tutoring when they need them. Or Harman and Harpreet, entrepreneurs with talent in Brampton, who are helping other entrepreneurs get the help they need to make sure their businesses are successful. It's the people that are giving me the hope that Brampton can be a great place and continue to be a good place for us all to live together. I think with the kinds of people that we have, we can face our common challenges. And what are those challenges? We can tackle our traffic problems by widening the roads, modernizing our light systems, and making sure construction happens at off-peak hours. We can attract businesses by using incentives and by focusing on industries like our healthcare sector to make sure we have local jobs. Because Brampton's a great place to live, but it also needs to be a great place to work. And finally, we need to think about our future, and our future is in our kids. We can engage our youth not just physically, but mentally, and we can make sure that all youth in Brampton have access to all the great programming that Brampton has to offer. Brampton is a great place to live. The right candidate, a candidate who can represent the people fairly, will make Brampton even better. If you think that I'm the right candidate, please vote for me. My name is Vinus Sedev, and I want to be your city councilor for Ward 7 and 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sedev. Mr. Fortini.
Hi, my name is Pat Fortini, and some of the residents may have already heard and know me when I ran in the 2010 municipal elections. I'd like to thank Rogers and the Brampton Board of Trades for hosting the debate and introducing all the candidates to the residents of Brampton. I also would like to congratulate all candidates here today for the nomination for City Council. I always said the more candidates entered, it will give the residents of Brampton a better variety of choice to choose who's fit for the job. I've been a long resident for 21 years in the city of Brampton and live in Ward 8 with my lovely wife and daughter. I, Pat Fortini, will work 24 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have a proven track record. I've helped and volunteered many organizations in the past years. I've helped build the Journey at the Ireland Center. I volunteer in North Bramley United Church. I help with the Salvation Army. And I've already achieved many success in many individuals in the past years. I will promise not to work 100%, but to put in 110%. I will bring integrity, accountability, and most of all, honesty to City Hall. I, Pat Fortini, will promise to work for all residents in the Brampton and all level of governments. I will prove to you today that I am qualified for the job. So on October 27th, please vote wisely and hoping to get your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fortini. Ms. Bailey?
Good evening, moderator, panelists, candidates, and viewers at home. My name is Carla Bailey, and I am proudly running for City Councilor, Wards 7 and 8. Brampton is a rapidly growing city with potential to become Ontario's, if not Canada's, most livable city. But how do we get there? This is the question that has been driven me. As such, I've built my political platform on what I like to call the 4 pillars of a great city. First, transit, or arterial gateway into and out of Brampton, must be affordable, sustainable, and economically responsible. Second, waste management. We need to spend the time, money, and effort making Brampton more ecologically sustainable. Third, economy. We need to invite and encourage small businesses to come and stay in Brampton. Fourth, our youth. There is a positive correlation between high risk and low employment opportunities. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are what I feel Brampton needs to focus on. I'd like to thank Rogers TV and the Brampton Board of Trade for giving me this opportunity, and my fellow candidates the opportunity to present our ideas to the residents of Brampton. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
You're welcome.
Mr. Guman?
My name is Daminder Singh Guman, and I've lived in the Ward 7 for the past more than 10 years. And I'm standing for this election because it's getting harder for the small families or the low-income families to survive in the city because we have been taxed so much. If elected, I can promise one thing, that I'll freeze the property taxes, if possible, for everybody in this city. And also, we need research university for our kids who live in the city, but they have to go outside to study and learn things differently. Why can't they study here in this city? And for that, we need not any university that everybody is talking about. We need a research university which will bring lots of jobs in the city. They will bring lots of research companies in the city, and we'll have a very good and viable city. That will bring wonders to the city, and it will be the most beautiful city and the most livable city in Ontario. Secondly, the transit fares of the seniors should be reduced. Like in Calgary, they have a $25 pass for the whole year. But here, we have nothing for the seniors. We don't even have libraries for our kids. We have only 5 libraries in the whole city of 600,000 people, whereas Mississauga has 19 and Toronto has 99. So we need these basic facilities for our kids and for everyone in this city. And that's what made me stand in these elections, because we don't have the basic facilities. So I'm focusing on basic facilities. If you want those things, please vote for me on October 27th, and please vote in large numbers. My name is Daminder Singh Guman.
Thank you, Mr. Guman. Thank you, everyone, for your opening remarks. I'd now like to turn it over to our panel to ask some questions that might engage the viewers even further. Mr. Shields, would you like to lead us off with a question?
I'd be happy to. Welcome. I have a very simple question. Do you believe in term limits for councillors? And if you do, can you tell us how many terms is an appropriate number to have?
Who would you like to direct your question to?
I'd love to go around the table.
Yes, I would want the term to be restricted to only 2 terms. Like the US president elections, they can have only 2 terms. Here also only 2 terms, not more than 2 terms for any councillor.
I guess we'll go in order then?
Do that?
Sure.
I agree with Daminder, because there's no reason for it to become a career for politicians. You need fresh ideas. You need, yes, it brings experience after you've been in the term for a while, but you need new bodies in there, new ideas, and new people.
Mr. Fortini.
Looking at Hazel, I don't know. I believe in two terms. So I believe in Europe, they all have 2 terms. In the States, and I believe in 2 terms. I agree.
Mr. Seda?
I think 2 terms is one way to combat the problem, which is politicians maybe taking advantage of their position in office for a long period of time. I think that a better way to solve the problem, though, is to educate people. More people come out and vote during municipal elections, and more people are savvy on the issues, then they can make an informed decision on who they want. So I think that if we go to the root cause, which is educating the people, I think that's the best way to solve that problem.
Thank you. Mr. Singh?
I think the average life of a city councillor is 24.7 years, which is very, very long. So basically, they have made it as a career. I think the councillor should stay for 2 terms. There should be a break of 1 term, and then they can compete after that too. Then they can bring new ideas, and otherwise it's too much, because they are staying for as long as 26 years, 30 years. So there should be a limit. The first 2 terms, and then break, and then they can come back again.
Mr. Gupta?
Well, I think 2 terms is certainly a good idea, but we need to have some kind of qualification criteria for people to run for city councillor or any council elections, because unless people are qualified, unless people are professionally experienced, they can't deliver goods. That is why we have career politicians staying there for 20-25 years, but still nothing is happening.
Mr. Alvey?
I agree with 2 term, but I don't think so that will solve the problem. Problem is, if you want to solve the problem, that has to go to the mayor. Mayor should not be stay more than 2 term. All the power is with the mayors. City councillor, if I win or somebody else will win, the one councillor cannot do anything unless the other councillors are agreed. So I'm okay with 2 year also, but I think the mayor should go no more than 2 years.
Mr. Malhotra?
See, as they say, you cannot solve the problems created with one form of thinking using the same form of thinking. So you have to get fresh blood. You have to get the youth in your politics. So I absolutely agree with 2 terms. I think after 2 terms, the consul should retire. There should be some contingency in place so that it's not like the entire consul's retiring and you have a completely new consul and nobody understands. So you need to have some contingency in place to manage seniors and manage experience. But I think 2 terms is a very good thing, and that brings in youth, that brings in fresh blood into the consul.
Thank you. And Mr. McLaughlin?
I think 2 terms is a good idea because you really do need, like everyone's saying, you need new ideas. And if you can't achieve something in 2 terms, you're not going to achieve it in 4 or 5. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, everyone. Ms. Crawford, what would you like to ask our candidates?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for participating today. My question is directed to Mr. Gupta. We've heard a lot about the need for visionary leaders in our next term of council, and the decisions that are being made today will impact our city in the next 10 to 15, 20 years. Can you share with us what your vision for Brampton is in 20 years?
Yes, certainly. That's a very good question. Thank you for asking. I believe, Brampton has a great future because our future depends upon our people. Brampton is home to 600,000 people right now. In next 20 years, it will be increasing to 900,000 people. Most of them, they are new Canadians. They come here with a lot of hopes, lot of, fresh ideas. As a councillor, if given a chance, I would make sure that our strategy plan is put into place because I feel I have the unique skill sets with my multilateral experience in quality and environmental auditing. As a print and electronic media guy, and also as a passionate community volunteer, I can engage those people, and I'll make sure that those factors and those quantifiable achievements are made so that Brampton can really be an ideal place to lead our lives. We need to improve our quality of life, and we need to instill confidence in our people that they can really choose Brampton and make it happen for them.
Mr. Fortini, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes, I did. I agree with Manny Gupta, but he sits on the many boards for many years, and now he's talking about changing the plans. I disagree completely. To bring in more jobs is a key thing. Brampton's got 8,600 registered business. Mississauga, with a population of 250,000, has got 54,000 registered business. Now, he's been sitting on all these type of boards for many years, and we're still in the same boat, and now he's disagreeing. I just find that weird.
Sure. The question specifically, however, was around a vision. What is your vision?
My vision is you got to create more work, and you got to bring in the jobs. You have to have focus on mostly of the land when it consists of putting the land in the zoning for industrial, commercial, and residential. You have to leave it there. Sooner or later, you will have the builder come there. Not give it all to homes and come into our city and just drive out. Sooner or later, they will bring business here. And that's what Mississauga has done in a long time. They have put it in plan, and it stayed that way. Our vision in the past, everything's been changed for the builders and changing the zoning from residential into, from industrial commercial to residential.
Mr. Malhotra, you wanted to share your thought, and then you, Mr. Gupta.
Absolutely. See, my vision for Brampton is to make it a live, work, and play city. Today, Brampton is just a neighborhood where people come to retire at the end of the day and then pick up their cars and commute again on an average 84 minutes each way every day. That's not good. That's not fair to them. That's not fair to their lives. That's not fair to their families. I've had some neighbors who've moved out of Brampton. They love Brampton. They love the neighborhoods, but they were forced to move out just because their commute times were exceedingly high. This was cutting into their family time. So I want to transform Brampton into a live, work, play city, bring high-tech jobs to Brampton, build facilities in Brampton. Newer developments in Brampton, for example, Ward 8, have so fewer facilities. You could look at the map of Brampton and you'll realize 11 rec centers in this ward, 12 rec centers in this ward, and 1 in Ward 8. So we have to increase the spending on facilities. We have to make sure seniors are not kicked out of our communities by tax increases. We have to bring transparency to city business, and we have to do all of this at a fast pace. We're already lagging behind cities like Mississauga. We cannot afford to be any more behind. I mean, Mississauga's mayor would actually go out and source companies in. She got an award in Germany for bringing German companies into Mississauga. Our council and our mayor is not that proactive. They're not reaching out. They're not extending their hands out. They're hardly even working with the province. So we have to change that culture. We have to bring in a city hall which is proactive, goes out and gets business.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. Mr. Gupta, you wanted to speak, and then you, Mr.
Yeah, I
President.
just wanted to clarify on my worthy candidate, Mr. Pat Fortini's comments that I sit down on various boards. I sit down because I deliver goods. I make sure that things do happen. Unlike him, when he applies to different boards but never gets selected or elected due to whatever reasons. You have applied to Brampton Safe City, you applied for Committee of Adjustment, but you got interviewed but got rejected.
Because you sit on Safe City.
But you got
One at a
rejected.
time. We'll let you go back and forth, but one
That's
at a
why I
time.
didn't
But
get
you got
in.
rejected.
And I didn't get rejected. I didn't
You weren't
get a
selected,
response.
that means you were rejected.
No? Well, why? What is the reason? I didn't get a reason. Is it because you sit on the board?
See, I just want to say this is the same kind of bickering that happens on the city council today. And if we continue this, we better just make this a boxing ring rather than a city council, right?
Well, let's see. Mr. Sedev, can you take us to a happier place?
Hey, I love Brampton, right? So no, the reality is in terms of vision, if we want the core, basically we need people to have jobs, right? We can make it a fun city to live. We can make it an energy efficient city to live, a sustainable city to live, but people need jobs first. And we need a good strategy to get jobs here, and we need jobs that are going to last for the future. If you look at Mississauga's tax rate, it is lower for corporate offices and for industrial spaces, and we need to be more competitive, especially in terms of incentives for attracting businesses to Brampton. But we also need to think about what kinds of businesses we want to attract to Brampton. And I would submit that if we brought healthcare orientated companies to Brampton, that would be a good choice moving forward. The reason why our third largest labor force is a life science labor force. Many of our young people are going and getting degrees in the life sciences, in the health sciences. If we bring a university to Brampton, maybe we should focus it around healthcare as well. This kind of strategy, looking at it at every angle, looking at what people are doing in school, what kind of labor force we have, and what kind of university we want to bring, that's going to help create jobs for the future. That's going to help create a Brampton where people want to live, people want to work, and where people will eventually want to play as well.
Mr. Alvey, where do you see the city in 20 years?
I agree with my friends are saying. Also, I just want to add in, we need a recreation center. In sports, especially basketball is Canada's fastest growing sports. We don't have a basketball facilities in Brampton. Once the season started, all sports are remain open. Only a basketball I have seen last 26 years. 25 years, because my sons are goes now at 25 years. They all play basketball. Every year the facility is filled up in less than 3 to 4 minutes, and the kids are, I seen it, they are crying and they're going home. They have nothing to provide for them. I want make sure, we have to have a sports arenas, all sports. I'm not talking about only basketball, but we don't have nothing for a basketball. I think we should look into it.
Thank you, Mr. Alvey. Mr. McLaughlin and then Ms. Bailey.
Yeah, we hear all these things, all these great things that everybody wants to do, and I've heard this time and time and time again, and I'm sick listening to it because nobody ever does anything. The reason they don't do anything is because there's never any money to do these things. They say, well, let's up the taxes a little bit. We'll have a university, up the taxes. We'll have a hospital, let's up the taxes. We want better roads, let's up the taxes till we can't afford the taxes anymore. And I'm absolutely sick of it. I worked in the stock market for many years, and I know how to raise money for these things. And if you want to see a better Brampton, we've got to get high-paying jobs, and how we get them is we bring a university in here, or establish our own university, number one, a research university. We set up a mutual fund, Brampton Only Mutual Fund, where everybody in Brampton can put money into a mutual fund, and that will fund new businesses. That brings business into the place. Then you can have a research hospital, a university hospital connected to the university. That will bring people in who are going to pay to go to the hospital, and we don't have to pay the extra health care. Also, I was talking about roundabouts, and that also leads back into the insurance. I worked in the insurance industry, and the reason our insurance rates on the roads are so high is because we have so many accidents. Put roundabouts in there, it reduces your number of accidents by 37%. It's going to reduce the number of injuries by 75%, and the number of collisions are going to go down because it's going to be more side swipes than T-bones. And that reduces your cost of your insurance. So let's have all these ideas, but tell us how you're going to pay for them. And that's why I really always have concerns, and that's why I'm standing this time. I know how to raise the money. I know how to go out and get the businesses. I know how to talk to the presidents of companies overseas and bring them here. Anyone else can do that? Let me hear from them.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Ms. Bailey?
Bringing it back to the question, which was our vision for Brampton down the road. Well, my vision for Brampton is being able to live, work, and play in Brampton if you choose to. Okay? Right now, it is not a choice for a lot of the families that I deal with in the community. They have to go out. So my vision for Brampton is development for communities, not for just sprawls, right? I'm talking about community building, community engagement, and that kind of stuff.
Perfect. Mr. Seta, if you wanted to share another thought?
When I talk to people knocking on doors, they talk about changes taking a long period of time. Certain changes, certain initiatives take 5 years, 10 years. You're not going to see economic change for a while. But what you might see change is customer service. People talk about how Bill Howie, I believe his name was, he was city councilor before, and he gave excellent customer service. And I think that's what I could bring to the city council. People who want to give a call, people who want to talk to their city councilor on the phone. I hear that that's not happening, and that would be a great vision because people can see those changes. People can see that they're connecting with their city councilor. If they have a complaint and they're being heard, people can see that. So it's the things that people can see. I can bring that change, and I think that's a great vision to have in Brampton.
Thank you. Mr. Goodman?
In 20 years, I would like to see a research university in Brampton. And like in Hamilton, they have a research university, and they have, with that university comes 50 biotech companies. And if you have 50 biotech companies, and if we have something like that here, we'll get business also, we'll get high-paying jobs also, people can work here, live here, also students can study here. And this city will grow like anything, and it will be a positive growth. So the first thing we need to do is get a university for Brampton, and that too a research university.
Thank you. Mr. Singh, your vision for Brampton in 20 years?
Brampton's population now stands at 600,000, and in 20 years' time, it's going to be more than 850,000 people over here. Now, there is a lot of problem of congestion on the roads. There is a gridlock problem all the time. People are afraid of coming to Brampton in the evening, and going out is a problem in the morning hours. So there is a lot of rush in the morning and evening. So we have to solve this gridlock problem by bringing LRT on the Ontario Main. And also we need to have a university in Brampton, because even the smaller cities have universities, but Brampton with this large population doesn't have. Even Hamilton and other smaller cities, they have universities, but Brampton doesn't have any university. And also we need to have a second hospital, full-fledged hospital. Of course, Peel Memorial is in the building process now, but will not be the same as the full-fledged hospital. So these are the things which I think we have to take care for our population at that time.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your answers to this question. I'd now like to let Mr. Shaman ask something of the candidates. What would you like to
Most certainly, we'll come back to some of the stuff that's more recently in the news and the media, unfortunately not giving Brampton the limelight that we deserve or we want, and that's accountability and transparency. A number of issues that seem to be in the limelight these days stem from the fact that a few years back we moved away from a rule-based code to a value-based code. Would like to hear from each individual around this, around the table today, in terms of whether they would support moving back to a rule-based code or not. And maybe we can start with Mr. Archie.
Sorry, could you just explain what those are, the rule-based and value-based?
Yeah, so when it
ones?
comes to spending in particular, it seems that the rules were either not followed very closely, or there were not very rigorous processes in place in terms of how they needed to be reported back, and as a result of it, we're basically dealing with overspending issues.
Mm-hmm. I was a consultant for many large corporations, and we had big problems like that. We had people buying things, you know, like a bolt for $50. And we had to go in there with forensics, the forensic accounting firms, and find out what was going on. And we managed to bleed out all the problems, get rid of the people who were the problem, and we introduced a zero-based budget for everything. That means the head of each department had to look at what he needed for the year and then justify what it was. And we saw them starting to cut back and cut back and cut back on the costs. And they started looking more closely at the invoices. And some of the invoices were absolutely ridiculous. The companies were being robbed, totally robbed. So what I'd like to see is us going in and having a proper accounting system. I know how to do this because I've done it for many companies. We've saved them a fortune. We've actually saved their existence because they were going out of business. I'm not talking small companies. I'm talking companies with 35, 40,000 workers. But if you put in a proper reporting system with the proper transparency, with forensic accountants going every so often, just to make sure people are honest, we can do that. And it's the best way we have found to be able to control it and to control graft and corruption within the organization and cut costs. The costs, once we've done that, about 5 to 10%.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Mr. Singh, you wanted to weigh in on accountability?
The root cause of the problem is that when the present council came into power, in February 2011, they changed the bylaw of oversight. And oversight, because there is no oversight, they call it honor system. They did not stick to the spending policies. They should have stick to the spending policies. Only then they could run the city. So that was a major problem of oversight. So I want that the oversight should be brought back to the council.
Mr. Gupta, did you like to comment?
Yeah, certainly. We need to go back to the rule-based, policies, and not only rule-based policy, but we need to bring back integrity and honesty to the council. We need to have council members, those who will really, play to the rule book, and they will not abuse the powers which they have. And sometimes in this recent forensic audit report, we have seen how they have played around with the rules. So we need personal integrity, and I can assure you, if given a chance, I'll bring that to the table, and I'll make sure that the rest of the council members also adhere to those rules, so that public tax dollars, they are not wasted unnecessarily.
Mr. Malhotra, rules-based or values-based?
You know what, you could actually go with either. You could go with either, because I'm pretty sure what's happened to Susan now is going to send a loud and clear message to people who are coming in later. But I think what we're missing out is, and by the way, I'm going to address two of your problems. The zero-based accounting, I think, is a great idea, but you're going to add bonds and debentures, which is going to go ahead and add loans that our children have to pay out. So I don't think that's a feasible approach. So zero-based accounting, again, debatable. What we have to do, though, is we have to keep in mind that rules-based is a very nice approach because it helps people know what the rules are. You don't go speeding at 200 kilometers an hour on your streets. Why? Because the rule says 70 kilometers an hour. So rules-based is a very nice approach, but what we need to do is we need to go ahead and bring transparency. So whatever you're spending as per rules also needs to be posted online, so all of your citizens can see what you're doing and what you're not doing.
Mr. Sadev?
I definitely think rule-based is a good way to solve some of the problems that we're seeing right now. Regular audits. I think people don't have the time to see what's going on at council, and this will help if someone else is exploring what the issues are and bringing them out to light. I think that's a great way for people to stay engaged with what's going on. I also believe that council could communicate better with its constituents as well. There's a lot of constituents in the wards, right? There's almost 60,000 eligible voters, probably more. An online forum would allow citizens to stay in touch, stay engaged, allow communication between the city councilors and its constituents as well. So I think, definitely think that rule-based is the best way to go, and I think that more communication between its council and the members, the constituents, is also important.
Ms. Bailey, you wanted to comment?
Well, we've all seen what value-based looks like and the end results. We realize that there are some honest people, and there's also some people who believe that they are entitled, and they can fudge around with the value system. At least with rule-based, you have a clear idea of what it is your expectations are. You have a clear number. You know what the rules are, and you either break them knowingly or you stick within them.
Thank you. Mr. Alvey and then Mr. Fortini.
I agree with my friends. I think we should go rule-based, and also I heard the city councillor, they're giving them a Visa credit card. I think they are using this credit card freely. I think we should stop them.
Thank you, Mr. Alvey. Mr. Fortini, you had a comment?
Yes, I agree with the rule base. And I believe no city councilor should have a credit card or staff people. I had a company credit card for many years. You're allowed so much for breakfast, so much for lunch, so much of anything extra comes out of your paycheck. The school trustees still use this system today. You're allowed so much to spend. When you have a credit card, you're bound to make mistakes and start using it, and that's what ended up happening. And I believe in the rule base.
Perfect. And Mr. Goodman, do you want to have the final word on this?
Yes. I also agree with the rule-based, but with the rule-based also we need audits at regular intervals, so that if someone is making a mistake, it's pointed out at the starting and it stops then and there, but not linger on for till the council ends and then we shout and say many things. Thank you.
So a little bit of discussion what the rules could look like, but it seems like we have consensus that rules are the way to go. Lots of nods. Mr. Shields, where would you like to take the conversation?
Let me take it in a slightly different direction. At least half of you talked about the youth when you made your opening comments, and a few of you have talked about the youth as you've gone along this evening. And we all know the youth is our future, I'd like to know specifically, not just your vision, but what you would do to contribute to providing opportunities for young people in two ways: to develop as their future leaders, and secondly, to help them become adequately educated and find work. And I'd love to start with you, Mr. Fortini.
I believe in the youth. Our youth is our future. I need them to pay my pension. I always said, the most education is always at your house, where you teach the kids. These days, with the husband and the women both going to work, by the time they get home, they spend more time out than they do at home. Building recreation centers is a good key to bring them to a place instead of wandering the malls. And, and without those places, we don't really have them in Brampton. Everything's closed. And I think something like they did on the soccer field there in Dixie is a great sport. And people sponsoring, like I do, I sponsor a lot of baseball teams for young kids in soccer to keep them active, to keep them out of trouble.
And what would you do to help?
Well, I do sponsor them. Okay. I work with them. I play baseball. You try to get them off the street, and when sponsoring them, that gives them more of an edge to get into the sports.
Thank you. Ms. Bailey, and again, the specific question is about leadership and education among youth.
Well, this summer, my son turned 14 years old, and I had the same issue that many, many residents of Brampton had, and I know this because I spoke to many of them. There weren't many programs available to them. Yes, there was basketball, there was soccer, but if your children were not into those things, it was harder to find things for them to do. It was harder to keep them occupied and busy. At 14, you really don't want to send your child out to work. So most kids stayed home. Some did their community hours, but for the most part, many parents said they left them at home by themselves. Now, my plan includes a program for youths building, as Pat said, recreation centers specifically for this age group. Building centers that will not only for sports, but also they have programs in them that will develop skills, that will develop interest. You know, if you're interested in research, there's a section for it. If you're interested in cooking, you know, yes, it's expensive, but we need to focus on what's interest for the youth and what will get them engaged so that they can build careers out of what it is that they want to do, what they enjoy.
Mr. McLaughlin and then Mr. Sadeh.
Yeah, I was a professor at Humber College for 10 years, and I met a lot of people training for this or that, but a lot of them got their degrees and went out and they couldn't find a job. Now, there's no point in training people for non-existent jobs. What we should be doing is looking at innovation, entrepreneurship, training these kids from an early age how to start their own businesses, how to run their own businesses successfully. That means teaching them marketing, teaching them how to build perhaps an invention that they may have in their head, how to do the accounting so they won't be robbed, you know, at the bank. We have to have these entrepreneurship courses, and have started. I think that I tried to get it into the University of Toronto, and they blew me off, and I tried to get it into York University, blew me off, Ryerson blew me off. They started it in Oxford University in London, UK. And I'd like to see that here, where we do start from an early age, showing the kids how to be inventive, how to invent products, and then show them what they can do with it, how to sell the product, how to make the product, manufacturing. Because 100 years ago, everybody was in manufacturing. 10 years ago, I think it was about 9%. Now it's 7%. The jobs are vanishing. The warehouse jobs. I've been in some of the factories in the US, and even one here, where there's no people in the warehouse. It's all automated. All these big warehouses hiring all these people, all these people are going to be unemployed in 10 years. It's coming very, very fast. We have to show people not how to be good employees, but how to become good employers. And that's where we have to go.
Thank you. Mr. Sadeh?
We looked at a specific program, and it's called Playworks. It was a national Canadian program. Basically, they would allocate funding to student groups who were creating activities for their fellow peers. This would encourage students to take leadership within their peer groups. It would encourage them to create programs they thought their peer groups would want to be a part of, and then it would encourage them to recruit their peers in order to have great activities. Basically, we believe with minimal investment, because in a national program, it costs about $40,000. It started with a couple hundred kids, and then it grew to about 6,000 kids. Imagine taking that amount of investment, that minimal investment of, you know, 40,000, even half that, 20,000, and creating those similar programs there. Right away, you're not only creating more programming for youth, so you're engaging them and getting away from activities that we don't want them to be engaged in, but we're allowing certain youth to take leadership among their peers, allowing them to create activities that they know their peers are going to love, and also creating a competitive spirit. You know, they have to compete for the funding, and if they get it, they have to use it wisely, so we're teaching them those entrepreneur skills as well. So that was a Canadian program, a national program, and we could definitely make a program here in Brampton. That's just one of the ideas that we've looked into. I just wanted to give an example.
Thank you. Mr. Gupta, you wanted to?
Yeah, certainly. You know, as other fellow candidates have said, our youth is our future. We need to really instill confidence in them, instill leadership qualities in them, and there are different ways to do that. First of all, as a council member, if given a chance, I'll be a role model to them, because we need to engage our youth in our civic decision-making process. Because right now there is that huge gap. There is a disconnect between youth and our city council. I would make sure that in the ward, there are, local committees are formed so that at least 30% of them is youth. Also, our recreation centers and our libraries, they have to be centers for youth excellence. And I also intend to introduce a Brampton Youth Festival, where we'll include all the youth and make sure that their talent, their ideas are well spread.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Mr. Singh and then Mr. Alvi, please.
I propose that our kids, they should take active part in the community events. So those are the places where they get to know about their own culture people, and they can express their views over there, even if they have to perform like Bhangra or Gidda or whatever event. That is the best place they can show their leadership over there.
Mr. Alvey?
Education is more important to me, and sports. These two things I think is very important. If we can provide a better education for our kids to become a leader. Our sports is main important also. In Brampton, in a few years, Brampton produced a good NHL star and also NBA player. Recently went, I believe it's 4 of them in a few years back. Many of them coming soon in NBA. I involved in a sports with my sons and also some other sports teams. Lots of people cannot afford. Like a rep teams, every sports have a rep teams. Rep teams, our fee is skyrocket right now. My son is right now, he's a 10-year-old, and his fee is this year is $800, just a fee only. They are taking our city's name when they go and play over other cities. They're taking name of Brampton. I think Brampton should contribute some kind of expense so then they can bring their name. Also, a lot of people they cannot afford. I think we should get involved and pay for their fee also.
Thank you, Mr. Alvey. Mr. Goodman, you wanted to share a thought?
I agree with everyone that we should invest in our kids because kids are our future. And to do that, first of all, we need to educate them. And to give them education also, it requires a lot of money. So Brampton City should have grants for students going to universities, colleges. Whoever wants to study, they should be funded, if need be, according to their family income, because many low-income families, they can't even afford that education today. And to give them, they need to study. And they want to study, but they can't study because they don't have the money. Same thing with sports. People want to play the sports, but they don't have the money to play the sports. Even for recreation centers, they want to go, but they can't go because they don't have the money. Not everyone is as lucky as a few people. So basically, we have to do something for everyone. And basically, for low incomes, we should do a lot. And whatever we can do, we should be doing. And Brampton City has funded even to buy houses for people. They have invested in, they have funded for house renovations. Why can't they fund for the kids? That's the only thing.
Thank you. Ms. Bailey?
I noticed that when people, some of the candidates are talking about their youth, they're saying education, education, education. I want to point out that yes, education is very, very important, but we got to remember that it's not every single youth is going to want to go to college, and not every single youth is going to want to go to university, but we still want to ensure that they have opportunities to learn and gain the skills that they need to do whatever trade or field that they decide to go into. Right? So that's why with the recreation facility that I'm proposing, it offers so much variety of it.
Mr. Malhotra, then Mr. Fortini.
See, we all know that most economies were agriculture economies long ago. Then they transitioned to industrial. Then they transitioned to knowledge-based economies. And now the future is innovation. The future is all about creating new things. It's all about running businesses, owning businesses. You know, BlackBerry is a very good Canadian example where something that was homegrown created so much of economic activity in our country because they had innovated. Now that culture has unfortunately, I believe, died down a little bit, both in our country and very true about Brampton. You know, what Brampton City needs to do is understand that the future is innovation. So we got to innovate, and when you innovate, you don't make up fake jobs for people, you don't make up fake recreational activities, you give them real experience on real things. So my goal will be to work with corporations and give the youth real opportunities. You know, shadow somebody in their job. You know, if I'm a counselor, I will have a youth mentor program where I will bring 4 people to mentor with me on the job on a regular basis. You see what I do, you learn. I would very well encourage the mayor to do that. And not just one. Mentor 4 people at the same time. Give them real decisions, real opportunities. Let them see the real backroom dealing if there's anything happening. Let them get a feel and let them be at the level where you're not creating a fake game for them to play, but you're actually giving them real tangible opportunities. I'm big on sports. I used to be in my school table tennis team and my college table tennis team. So I do understand that sometimes it's expensive, sometimes you got to pay for facilities, and I think the city should do whatever best it can.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Fortini, you wanted to weigh in one more time?
Yes, say that I agree with Mr. Alvey. For sports, it does cost a lot of money. I sponsor a lot of baseball teams, and I realize how much it does cost, and a lot of parents cannot afford it for hockey, or I sponsor some kids in hockey and seniors too. That's why you need those facilities. At least they go to a place, even if they don't play soccer outside, like we used to do when we were kids, they have a place to go instead of hanging around the malls. I disagree with Mr. Singh that the city has to pay for the schools, for universities. There is such things as bursaries. Now I see in my case, my daughter applied. She didn't get nothing. She had to send in money, and other people got a bunch of bursaries plus the UN from Sheridan or universities. So I don't believe the city should have to pay for any education, maybe a bus fare and stuff, but not for colleges or universities.
Thank you very much. Ms. Crawford, do you want to ask another question of our candidates?
Sure. In Brampton, small and medium-sized businesses make up the majority of our businesses, and that's similar to the Board of Trade's membership. So small and medium businesses are obviously very important to our city. What's your plan for creating a business environment that encourages small to medium businesses owned by Canadians? And with your plan, what role will municipal tax reductions play in encouraging business growth?
I've been looking at that for quite a number of years, and I've done a lot of research on it, and I think that business incubators, overseen by perhaps a university or a college, are ideal. They help people get started, and then they show them that they provide the services that an entrepreneur does not have. And that's what I was telling you earlier on, is I want to see people coming out of school being able to build their own businesses. They can't do that right now. They have an idea. They want to build a BlackBerry, but they don't know what to do. Where are they going to get the finance? In fact, I was one of the people that raised the finance for the BlackBerry. It was millions of dollars. I think they launched at $10 a share and went up to 200. You need people to launch a mutual fund to take care of the financing for any of the incubator ideas that come through. And there's a lot of ideas out there. I could bring in 100 inventors tomorrow if we had the financing. They would all open up businesses in Brampton. Every one of them would supply you with 2 or 3 high-paying jobs. And that's all we need. We need the finance, we need the business incubator, we need companies to set up that, where they have a marketing guy, they have an accounting guy, they have all the specialized needs that these guys can't afford. If you're a one-man or two-man business, you can't afford high-priced help. You only need them maybe one hour a week. So let's have something like that in the incubator to advise the people, get their businesses launched, and then they will supply the jobs.
Mr. Malhotra, you had an opinion on this?
Absolutely. As far as taxes are concerned, we got to keep them competitive. I'm not a proponent of reducing taxes to almost nothing and then worrying about raising money and running here and there to raise the money. I'm not a proponent of keeping them sky high so that people have to jump ship and go to another city. You need to keep it competitive. You need to be competitive with other cities to bring in good startups, good ideas to our town. But I disagree with the fact that you have to do something really special. Look at San Francisco. It's the creative valley. It's the Silicon Valley of the world. Really high taxes, really high cost of living, but people want to still go there and innovate. So I think what we got to look into is our culture. We got to develop that culture, and we got to support them as much as possible to create something similar over here. The answer is never really just handouts. And when you talk to inventors, they don't want handouts. They just want a very vibrant, very competitive playing field to play in. And that's what we got to develop here in Brampton.
Mr. Alvey, you have something you want to share?
I would say we should give them a break. Brampton have still lots of land available. I think we should invite a lot more small businesses. Even if we have to, we give them at least 2 to 3 year no tax even, because the land is free, giving us nothing. All we're doing is raising high taxes to household people. Once the business we have established, the business have established in our city, they will create our jobs. They don't have to pay our taxes 3 years, but after 3 years they will start paying the taxes. We don't have to increase taxes for households. So I think we should give them a break.
Mr. Sadev, is it culture? Is it tax incentives?
Well, I think in the short term, it's tax incentives. In the short term, it's tax incentives. In the long term, it's culture. We need to stay competitive with the other municipalities in the area, or we'll just simply lose business. In the long term, I've talked to the entrepreneurs in Brampton, and they feel like the need that they have is not at this point, at least the young entrepreneurs, the need that they have is not funding but mentorship. So we need to become better mentors, and we need to put into place programs that would help mentor these entrepreneurs. But I think it's a bit of both. You need the reductions, and you also need the culture change.
Mr. Gupta?
Yeah, certainly. I think there is a need to engage our organizations like Small Business Enterprise Center, Brampton Board of Trade, and many other ethno-cultural business organizations. Because Brampton is home to newcomers, Brampton is home to residents from all around the world. When they choose Brampton, they come to the city, they come with high hopes, they come with entrepreneur skills. So we need to engage them, we need to provide them the tools to really flourish. And there are different ways to do that. We need a political climate for those businesses to be welcomed. When we hear about forensic audit, when we hear about criminal investigation, when we hear about expense scandal, nobody would like to come and open up a new business here. We need to provide the businesses the real infrastructure. We need to take care of better transit facilities for their staff to, if they have to use the transit, we need to reduce the gridlock. And of course, we need to give them some incentives so that they can be welcomed in Brampton. And certainly our council needs to be going away from photo ops. They need to really, follow up with those businesses where they, go for photo ops and see whether they are really existing or they are locked down.
Mr. Malhotra?
See, I just want to point to the forensic audit aspect. That's the same kind of thinking that people in third world countries apply, and they say, listen, if you've been raped, don't go and claim that you've been raped because nobody's now going to marry you. So that's hiding criminal activity. I don't support that. I think forensic audits are there for a purpose. They're there to bring transparency, and I think they're very important. What we need to do to promote is definitely not to hide our criminal activity and put a layer on top of it.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah, I was looking at attracting businesses to certain areas in the past, and the biggest problem that businesses face when they're going to look for a location is finance. That's the number one. It's not taxes. They don't think about taxes. They don't think about the cost of the rent. They want finance. Now, if they get the finance to do the production, they can raise the money and get the profits in order to pay the rent and pay the taxes. Ask any entrepreneur who's past that first stage, it's always about the money. So a mutual fund would be ideal. Brampton only. Come to Brampton, we'll fund your business. When we say fund it, we're not giving the money to them. We're lending it to them. And we're going to charge them a low rate of interest. We're going to get the money back. So that's what we want to do.
And what if you lose the money?
You're not going to lose the money.
Mr. Malhotra, did you want to go a little further on that question?
Yeah, see, Brampton only mutual fund, I believe, may be a good idea. I haven't looked into it in detail, but there are so many venture capitalists out there. Shark Tank, good one, right? And we have Dragon's Den. So there's a huge amount of venture capital, and this venture capital is available to all Canadian companies too. The key, I think, differentiator is mentorship. Vinay's pointed that out, and it's about mentorship. You need to guide the youths in terms of how they can make it happen for them. The money is. I was talking to somebody in San Francisco, and they were telling me literally money is for free now. So I think finance used to be an issue probably when you were young, but now the key aspect is mentorship. You need to guide people, you need to make it real for them, and they will succeed.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin?
I don't think you're in touch with reality here, because I've been working with companies for 10 years now, raising money, and there is no venture capital in Canada. We went into the States. There is no venture capital available. I'll tell you where the money's going. There's all this free money, but what they do is they get $100 million and they buy a company that's operational. Why would you invest in a brand new business that may or may not lose you money when you can go out and buy an operational business? Why do you think Tim Hortons has been bought out? Why don't they start their own coffee shop? Because Tim Hortons is a proven model, and that's where the money's going. You show me where I can get $2 million, and I will give you a great idea. And we're off, and we'll make $10 million next year.
Let me give you a simple example. I mean, there's a company in the GTA called FreshBooks, and a lot of small to medium businesses use that for invoicing. They just raised $30 million, $30 million. And it's a local GTA company, and it's an IT company which provides invoicing and accounting services to small to medium businesses. So, I don't agree. I think there's a lot of money, there's a lot of opportunity. The only thing is, it's becoming a global world. You got to bring your people up to the global scale. We got to encourage our youth. We got to motivate them. We got to give them real life challenges so they succeed at a global level. We're no longer at a lower level. We can't look back, stay back and say, no, Americans are, a little higher than us. No, it's global world now. We got to succeed.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. Let's get a few other people to weigh in on this. Mr. Singh, you've been waiting patiently.
We are always talking of jobs, because there are very few jobs in Brampton. People have to go out, and they create a lot of problems. Like gridlock problem is because they have to go out in search of jobs. So we have to encourage small and medium-sized businesses. Maybe we have to give some incentives to start the new business over here. And maybe we can attract more businesses from outside and give them some incentives over here. Maybe we have to give them some tax break for the first few building years of the business. So that is how we can encourage small and medium business and give more jobs to our youth.
Thank you. Mr. Sadaf?
University of Waterloo is a good example. A lot of businesses have sprouted up around it. Part of the reason why is because the professors there are allowed to keep their intellectual capital and therefore incentivized to build their own businesses. I think if we brought a university like that, that would be part of the puzzle of creating jobs here. And if you look at the kind of companies that they're making tech companies. There's that hardware company that allows you to move, motion move things with your hand. I mean, these are the kind of innovative companies that are going to get funding, but we need the kind of innovators in Brampton to help develop those kind of companies. So I think part of the puzzle is bringing a university that incentivizes the professors to stay here and bring their businesses here as well.
Thank you. Ms. Bailey, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes. As a small business owner in Ward 7, I speak to a lot of other business owners, particularly in my field. Now, one of the things that they've all said work for them is networking. The taxes kill them. Do I propose cutting taxes? It can happen. I wouldn't be against it, but that's not my focus in businesses. My focus with small business would be to engage the youths. So stimulate the economy by providing a subsidized program for our youth. So therefore, companies are subsidizing the pay of the youth. So if they're paying them $15 an hour, the company's only actually paying them $13, and the city of Brampton is paying them the other $2. So therefore, we're getting the youths employed. We're getting them into fields that they want to be in, and we're getting them trained along with their education, stimulating the economy.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goodman, let's hear from you.
Yes. I agree with Mr. Vinay that we need a university, and with that university we'll have lots of businesses coming up. And also we need to give tax break to the new companies that invest in Brampton. And we are lagging behind all cities right now, and to attract those companies we have to give them some incentive that is different from other cities. If we don't give them something different, we give them the same thing, they will not come here. We have to give them something more.
So when you speak to that, what would that different quality look like to you?
Like give them tax break, give them initial help in allotting land, approving their projects faster than other cities, like one level of approving the project, and so that they can start their business fast instead of wasting their time on applications to start up a new thing. And help them get the funding from the province or from the federal level. Any way the city can help.
Mr. Fortini, I'll leave the last word on this to you.
I agree. You gotta go focus on these businesses to help them reduce their taxes, to stay and shop here. I've done a lot of permits in the past. I go to City Hall Brampton, the permit department, they run you through the ropes. Yes. I go to Mississauga, I go to Burlington, I go everywhere, it's easy done. All these business people do not want to set up shop here for the taxes and also to not go through the headaches. I have a good friend of mine who owns Mako here in Brampton. Just to put a sign outside, you have to get permit and drawings and all kind. You don't need that in somewhere else. So people are getting frustrated and leave. That's one thing. The university is a need here in Brampton, and I always have a vision. We got the Canadian Tires on Steeles and Bramalea Road. That's going to be moved probably to Caledon they're talking about. You have all those acres of land there. You got GO Station there, everything there, and that will bring the youth and people from out of town in and out, and it will create more jobs. And it will bring the people here. When it comes to the zoning, if the land is zoned for commercial or industrial, it has to stay. Our city, that's all they're doing is a builder's buying an industrial commercial, and then he's turning it into residential. So where's the land after to build factories? It's gonna all disappear. It'll take 10 more years, we won't have any more. And this is a place where we only come and live, and we have to drive out of town.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fortini. We'll take another question here. Mr. Shamo, I believe it's your turn to pose something to our candidates.
Certainly, let's discuss something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm the director responsible for international trade for the local chamber. We're embarking on our first international trade mission in a week. 40% of the global economic activity now takes place in something we call developing markets or newly developed markets. Currently, the city of Brampton has one of the highest budget allocations to international marketing out of all the GTA municipalities. I would like to hear your perspective in terms of whether you would keep it that way, whether you would change it, and equally importantly, how would you see your role as a council member in terms of engaging the provincial government or the federal government in supporting Brampton businesses, both growing their exports as well as marketing Brampton as a destination for investment? Maybe we can start with Archie on this one.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with that. The only proviso I have is that there are competing interests, that have to be attended to it within the city. So as long as it doesn't affect anything else that we want to invest in and need to invest in, I'm for it.
Mr. Alvey?
I think we should keep the way it is. I know Mr. Shamim from a long time, and he updated me most of the time, and I think he's doing a wonderful job. I think we should keep it the way it is.
Mr. Gupta, we're talking about the amount that we spend in marketing abroad and how we attract foreign investments.
Yeah, certainly, Brampton is Canada's 9th largest city with a high influx of immigrants which are bound to grow their businesses here and succeed economically and make a better quality of life. So City of Brampton definitely needs to showcase that strength to the outer world. But when they go abroad in different trade missions and all, we need to follow up with whether the results are coming as well or not. We have had recently, trade trips to around the world, to India, to China, to Philippines. What are the results? So we really need to quantify those results, and we need to engage our residents into those. We need to, if City of Brampton's senior staff is visiting to any of these trade missions, they need to involve Brampton Board of Trade and other ethnocultural trade missions, and also the business owners. That there is a disconnect there. That is why we are not getting real results happening for our great city.
Okay. Mr. Saadav?
I definitely agree. International marketing is very important. We definitely want to review the practices that they're using right now, how they're promoting our city. Do they know all the facts about our labor force, what we have to offer, and how we're showcasing ourselves to the developing world? Do they understand the developing world and the kinds of businesses they have? And if so, then are we creating the right plan to attract them? I definitely want to review that. In terms of working with different levels of government, I think the different levels of government have their programming. They want to see individuals trained in a certain way. We need to explore how we can get our labor force trained in the ways that they would want to see them trained in order to kind of parallel with their plans. And I think if we work with them and we show that we can follow their plans, I'm sure that we can compete for that investment with other municipalities.
Mr. Malhotra, you cited a lot of international experience earlier.
Absolutely. I'm going to make it very simple. as long as international exposure is bringing in jobs, I'm all for it. As long as we're losing jobs because we're outsourcing to become good, international players, I think that's bad. I think everybody should do the best to bring jobs into the city and do the best at the same time not to lose jobs from the city.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Singh, did you want to comment on this?
I think a lot of loans are available through foreign development investment, and we can encourage the investors to make use of those funds.
Ms. Bailey?
My concern with this is I definitely wouldn't want to go any higher than 40% because we want to make sure we're staying Canadian. We definitely want to ensure that most of our imports or goods that we're selling, that we're importing, doesn't dominate in the marketplace the amount of Canadian goods that are available. That's my point in it.
Sure thing. Mr. Fortini?
I believe it's good in international trade, but I think we should leave that more to a provincial or federal. Our city has been traveling the world for years on our tax money, and I still haven't seen jobs created here. Most jobs are leaving. They're not creating the jobs. So they're saying long term. They've gone 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. That's good. You spend some money, you tried. Now it's time to, I think, to stop the traveling of the world on people's tax money.
Mr. Guman, is globalization a local issue or is it a provincial issue?
It's a provincial issue or a federal issue, and but the city can chip in with those things. But I would like export also to be compatible with imports. Like not only we import everything and not export anything. What are we manufacturing to export? What industries we have here in Brampton that we can export anything? If we just import, we are just losing jobs. If we make something, then we can export, then we'll be creating some jobs. Globalization is good, but we need to make something.
Thank you. Mr. Alvey?
I disagree with that. I think we should get involved. Look what we done with insurance. It's a provincial issue. What happened? So much insurance we're paying. I think we should take a control in it also. Hospitals. Our hospital, I think, is the worst hospital I've seen it so far. I'll give you the example. I seen a family, a lady, she is pregnant. Her son or daughter, whatever was, I don't know that, passed away in her stomach. She was carrying the baby for almost 2 weeks with the dying kids. Imagine how she's feeling. This is what we need, leave it to the province? No. We should take a control in our hand, and I think we should keep it in our hand with the city and Board of Trade.
Mr. Malhotra?
Well, we've debated the issue of the hospital, and I personally went through my wife went through pregnancy, and we delivered our boy in Brampton Civic Hospital. So we had good service. We couldn't complain about anything. I've heard incidents of lower than expected service from Brampton Civic Hospital, and I think some of those issues are because we are not actively working as a city to get provincial funding to increase. We're growing, and we're growing at a very fast pace, and our hospitals and our infrastructure is not getting enough funding to grow at that same fast pace. So I think what we need to do is, for internationalization and globalization, absolutely, I'm pro the city taking all the initiative. Mississauga does that. Why shouldn't we? So we should take the initiative. At the same time, we should also work with the province and the federal government to make sure as we grow, we get the funding to grow. It's not like just put us on the Band-Aid to grow by 2021, but don't give us any funding to grow. So I think that's very important.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. Mr. Gupta, you want to share a thought?
I would agree on this with Ajay, because we definitely need to engage our provincial and federal counterparts. We have a unique, situation here when our provincial representatives, they have a full majority at the provincial level representing Brampton, and our federal representatives, they have the full majority at the federal level. We need to really engage them and ask them to deliver goods for Brampton. Brampton definitely needs new businesses, new ideas, but we can work hand in hand, working together with provincial and federal agencies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. I appreciate the comments from everybody. Mr. Shields, did you have a question for our panel?
I do. You know, we've talked about some complex issues tonight. We've talked about innovation, whether it's Hamilton Innovation Center, Xerox One in Mississauga, Mars downtown Toronto. We've talked about IP ownership and funding and market penetration, sustainability. All of that is prosperity. Growing our businesses, creating jobs, and keeping our Bramptonians from having to drive out of Brampton to go to work. Can you tell me, what is your definition of prosperity? What's your vision of prosperity for Brampton? How are you going to pull some of these things together and make something happen?
Would you like to direct that question to?
Actually, I'd like to ask you, or start with you, Mr. Malhotra. Yes.
Me? Okay. AJ, right?
Right.
Okay, yes. Thank you. You know, one of the reasons I chose Canada as the best place for me to stay is because when I landed at the airport the first time, they could pronounce my last name. So my definition of prosperity is about having enough money to live your life, having enough time to spend with your family, and at the end, when you're ending your life, look back at it and be happy and thrilled that you've lived that life. So I think Brampton is in a unique position. It can make that happen for Bramptonians. You know, we got the will, we got the desire, and we got the infrastructure to make that happen. The only thing that we're lacking is a strong vision on our city council. And once we get that, and also a little bit of in touch with reality, once we get that there, I think we can make that happen. We can do that prosperity where people are happy, people are content, they have more than enough money to live their life, they're playing, they're enjoying, and they're spending time with their families.
Thank you. Mr. Guman, what does prosperity for our community look like?
Prosperity for our community is like having the family have the time together, people have money to spend, and let the economy grow. Because if they don't have the money to spend, the economy will not grow. And to have the economy grow, we need to have jobs. And jobs too, good paying jobs, not basing minimum wages. We need good paying jobs, and to get those jobs, we need better industries, bigger industries, and these are things we need for prosperity. And also, like, we need all the recreation facilities, and everything should be in-house. Not we don't have to go outside.
Mr. Alve?
I agree with my friend. We have to create more jobs. To create more jobs, we have to invite bigger companies. Why they have to move in? The other day, I was knocking the door. The people are asking me these questions. They said, we are raising a property tax every year. And that's what I said exactly. I said, yes, we're building more houses, but no industry. So we have to bring more industry. Why they have to come here? I gave them an example. I said, listen, I'm working in the company already. If some other company are offering me a job, why I should move? Unless they pay me more or they give me more facilities. Then I will move. Otherwise, why I have to move? So why these companies have to move in Brampton? Like I said before, we have to give them a tax break. Year, 2 year, 3 year. I would say we should go up to 3 year. They can bring the business in Brampton. They will create more jobs, right? And they, after 3 years, they will pay the more taxes to us. Then we don't have to increase our property taxes.
Mr. Fortini, that prosperity, and what would you do as a councillor to help make that happen?
I go back to the zoning again. If the land is set for zoning for industrial commercial, I insist it has to stay that way. The businesses will come. We're out balancing between the houses and the businesses in Brampton, and they have no choice but to increase the property taxes. So.
Mr. Seddev?
If you look at Ward 7 and 8, you'll see a lot of buildings for lease. So we have the buildings up and ready. We just need to attract the businesses to come here. We need to attract the right businesses that are going to last for the future. We were talking about prosperity. Prosperity is, it's not just where you are right now, but it's also where you're going. And it's about hope. And so for our young people, we want to train them up into jobs where they know they're going to have them. and where they're going to be able to work for the future. We need to bring businesses that are going to last. We need to compete with other municipalities to do that, so we need the tax reductions. And maybe we need a university, and we need to focus on a particular industry in order to make sure that we have the most success into the future. That's what prosperity is for me.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, you want to speak?
Yeah, I think prosperity would be a 3-day week, long holidays, excellent health care.
If you've got the plan, some people may vote for you.
And education, if you want it, as someone said earlier, you know, not all people want to go to university, but the latest trend internationally is that hubs are building around universities. The universities create new products, and then people take those products and they run with them, they manufacture them. So we have growing businesses around the universities. And if you see, that's a growing trend worldwide, because people can access all the brains, all the knowledge, and then we've got the manufacturing. So, and I'd like to see more green spaces. We should really be looking at mile-wide corridors for future growth of, because we're at some time, we're going to have to start demolishing houses to widen roads. So what we want to do is we want to have mile-wide green spaces that intersect, so that one day, maybe not in our lifetime, but one day there is some room to put in a monorail or a highway or something. Because right now, it would be a disaster if they decided to build a railway. Where are they going to put it? Yeah.
Mr. Singh?
People from all over the world, they want to come to Canada. And one of the main reasons is that Canada is a prosperous country. So that means everything is affordable. Maybe jobs are available over here, and they can have good income. So that income translates to prosperity. They can give good education to their kids, they have good food to eat, they have a good house to live. So that is all prosperity.
Mr. Gupta?
Well, definitely prosperity for me is enhancing quality of life. You know, we need to make sure that there is, food security, abundant food security. There are, local sustainable jobs, and definitely we need to address the poverty and homelessness issues with real quantifiable results. At the same time, we need to make sure that people, those who choose Brampton to live, their dreams become a reality. And as a city councillor, if given a chance and the honor to represent Ward 7 and 8, that is why I will make sure that our strategy plan, which is a living document for the next 20 years, it is actually implemented. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the talk, and we really deliver results. It has theme words like, serving, thriving, engaging, as well as preserving and growing. Those are not simply the buzzwords. We really need to deliver against each of those real buzzwords and make happen.
Thank you. And Ms. Bailey, do you want the final word on this topic?
To me, prosperity is when all residents of Brampton can say they're living the dream. Okay? That includes low unemployment rate. Everybody has a house to live, because right now, a lot of people in Brampton are not living the dream because there's so much homelessness. Everybody has food in their bellies, because our food banks are being so heavily utilized right now. It's not even believable. We have infrastructure in place, so we have an amazing transportation system. It includes education, affordable education. It includes education of our young children with a plan that gets them to where they need to go. It means eliminating poverty. And it also means making sure that our environment is green and is friendly. How would I make it happen? We've discussed that this evening. It's through jobs, maintaining our taxes, and as Pat said, making Brampton City Hall permit department more user-friendly.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bailey. Ms. Crawford, do you have a question for our guests?
I do. At the beginning of the debate, AJ made the comparison of city council chambers to a boxing ring, and I think that that's probably an appropriate analogy at times this year for sure. Our Board of Trade has in fact asked our city council at times to get back to the business of running our city and stop the squabbling. As a city councilor, how will you contribute to a more effective council? And I'll start with AJ since he made the analogy.
See, you gotta have your priorities straight, and as I explained a little while ago, that I used to play for my school, for my college, and so we always went into a game saying this is a game, right? This is, so city council needs to stop taking everything personally and think of it as a job that they're doing for Bramptonians. You're gonna be debating an issue very hotly, very passionately, but it's just an issue. It's not a personal insult to the other person. And I think that needs to come to the council, and the mayor probably needs to get that very clear to everybody in the council that, listen, we're all here for a singular purpose. We're all living together, we're all moving forward in one direction. I think I would try to link it with what Bill Gates once told when the genome was entirely sequenced. He said, howsoever much Democrats might hate Republicans, but the DNA proves that they're 99.99% the same. So we're all the same, and we're all focused towards making a better Brampton. My direction would be to work with the mayor to say, let's have a little bit more of team building. Let's make it clear to everybody that we're here for the same purpose. We're gonna fight, we're gonna be passionate about issues, but at the end, we're not gonna hold anything personal.
Mr. Seddev, how would you help make council a more effective place for Bramptonians?
I think it is about priorities. It's about putting Brampton first, and making sure that whatever we do it for Brampton, for the people of Brampton. It is about teamwork as well. It's about debating. Debating should happen at council, but when I've been to council, they haven't been debating, they've been attacking each other. So quite frankly, they need to talk about the issues, and they need to have healthy discussion about those issues, and then you're going to see real solutions. Because I was disappointed. I thought I would see debate. I thought I'd hear about municipal issues. I'd learn about municipal issues, but I really didn't. And I think that needs to happen more. And I think if people put Brampton first, if people think we're not taking it personally, as Ajay has said, and instead we're just trying to do what's right for Brampton, I think that that healthy discussion will happen. I think that solutions will be found, and I think it'll be a much more cheerful atmosphere at council.
Thank you. Mr. Gupta, how would you contribute to an effective council?
Well, an effective council definitely is a team play, as my fellow colleagues are saying, but we need to keep besides our egos and our personal goals, we need to work for a better Brampton. We need to work with our individual strengths. Every council member brings in a unique character set to the table. The mayor, as the leader, needs to use those skill sets for a better Brampton. And definitely, looking forward, I think 2014 is the right time for Bramptonians to choose a fresh slate of city council so that they can bring in fresh ideas. When we see that there are career politicians sitting down at the council for an average period of 20-24 years, we don't have fresh ideas, and they carry their bag and baggage and their egos, which is affecting the growth of Brampton in a positive way.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Mr. McLaughlin?
Well, I think the group in here is a good example because we haven't been fighting. Everyone's allowed everybody to have their say. No one's interrupted. And I think if council can conduct themselves that way, I think it would be great. In fact, why don't you just vote for all of us and we'll be the council?
This is it.
But who would be mayor?
Mr. Fortini, do you have some thoughts to share?
All this debate that's been going on is say how there's more issues to it than we don't know about. It's all inside doors and things that happened in the past. I just feel kind of bad that they have to bring it out in the open for other people to know. They're more kind of throwing stones at each other, and for me that's childish. I think they gotta put their personal stuff aside and work on the issues that we need in Brampton. Never mind what happened last year, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. You gotta work as a team.
Mr. Singh?
I think we should have a council which is united. What has been happening in the current council? They have always been divided, 5 on one side and 5 on one side, and then mayor joins one group and they take that scene. And whatever decision they are taking, they are not for the benefit of the residents. They made the decision for their own benefit. So I think the council should be united.
Ms. Bailey?
I think that council needs to remember that they're here, they're there for all there for the same goal. They're there to serve the people of Brampton. Yes, you may not agree with what your fellow councillor has said, but keep the focus on the issue, not the person that's communicating. Right now, what I see is a lack of respectable communication. Okay? So that's what they need to remember to bring back. And if it means that they need to have somebody come into City Hall to train them, that's okay. They need to do it.
Professional development.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Seda.
I also think that anybody who's been to council knows that party politics is present, and they'll also see that there's personal allegiances. I think there's no place for that on city council. The city councilors have to hold themselves, the mayor, the city councilors, everybody has to hold each other accountable, make sure that they're putting Brampton first. They also have to, it's okay to work with different levels of government, of course, that's how you get things done, but you got to make sure that Brampton is first, not the party, it's Brampton. And so I think that will improve the culture at City Hall as well.
Mr. Guman?
I think Brampton Council should be a team, and everyone in that team should be a team player. That will work towards one goal of making Brampton the best city in the world. And if they all agree and do that, no other city can be better than Brampton.
Mr. Alvey?
I agree with all my friends saying, but the problem is we should all work saying here, but when you go in the council, that the reality is wherever the 6 out of 10 people, wherever the 6 people are, they have to accept their decision. So I think mayor should be more accountable because their vote counts more.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone sort of commenting around the need for adult behavior and holding one another accountable. What no one's touched on, and I'm curious on your thoughts, are as potential councillors within your community, how is it that you'll help the citizens and the voters and the community be part of that process of accountability? How will you make sure they stay engaged if you're a councillor and understand what's going on once you're part of that team? Mr. Seda?
So we developed our platform by talking to many citizens. We found out what the problems were. We did our research. As I mentioned earlier, there was an example I brought up with Playworks. Once we did our research, we looked at different municipalities. So we engaged people within our campaign itself and want to continue to engage people afterwards. I also discussed an online forum to increase communication between myself and the wards. I think that there's simply a lot of citizens. For those that prefer the phone, of course, they can give me a call whenever they want. I'm available. But for those that can't, I think it's a really easy way to communicate on an online forum. We could pose what the city is doing. We could get feedback. We could do polls. It'd be a very easy way to stay in touch. So there's definitely more the city can do, and I definitely want to make strides to make that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Guman, do you have any, Gupta, do you have any comments around citizen engagement?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned in my initial comments, I would like to start community ward councils where I'll be involving our local residents to be part of that, and I'll be holding town halls at least once in a quarter so that I can hear to those issues firsthand and then make appropriate decisions. And like Vinay said, we need to engage our residents through online, through social media, because this is a new generation. We really need to go and make our message heard, and that is where the new council members, those who use all these tools, will be very, very effective. And of course, I'm also even keen on moving the meeting schedules, the council meeting schedules, to evening schedules, so that more people can watch them online, more people can watch them on TV, and more people can be present at the council. Right now we hardly see 15-20 people at those regular council meetings, which is not a good sign for our healthy democracy.
Ms. Bailey?
My way of involving the community into council is, as Manan said, it's change the time of the meetings. Most of the residents are working during the day. They can't come to the meetings. So therefore, put it at a time that they would be available to come, or he said, watch online, live stream, Rogers TV. There's a variety of ways for them to be able to participate if they're given the opportunity. Right now, they're not given that much of an opportunity. For myself, being involved in the community, they have ample opportunities to see me. I am a part of Ward 7 and Ward 8. I work in there, I have a business there, I volunteer there, and I worship in that community. So I'm always seeing residents, and I encourage them to talk to me all the time.
Mr. Alvey, you had a thought you wanted to share?
Yes, my friend. I would be available for my people 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'm not a counselor at this moment or not holding any position in a government or anything, but I'm always available still at this time. I have a friends, they are MPs, MPPs, friends working with the different departments, and if anybody need, I'm right now available, and I'm sure if I'm elected, I would be available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Anybody need any help, I will be there.
Mr. Fortini.
Yeah, me too. I was always thinking of having my own council, because in Ward 7 and 8, you could divide the areas like A, B, C, and D. You try to get one residence from every area and have a 1-month meeting and listen to their concerns, to engage them into the community and find out what they actually need and fix the problems. And me too, I'm always available 24 hours. But if most of these councilors get elected again, they still got their past behind them. Nothing much is going to change in city council. They're always going to start trying to fight. You could only help and try to work together. That's all you got to do. But I think the fighting's going to keep going if the same people are get elected. Yeah.
Mr. Malhotra, how do we help the citizens hold you accountable?
Two very good points came up out of this discussion. One, we got to go more online. I mean, you could be sitting anywhere in the world and you could watch Apple's developer conference online. Why can't you watch City Hall online? And why can't you debate that topic right there on your cell phone? You could just push comments in. So if you see one councillor going ballistic or not listening, you could potentially say, hey, what's happening? I'm from your ward and that's not a fair conduct. But at the same time, so that's one very good approach. City needs to somehow let the residents have the final say on things. I'll give you an example. When you call up a bank, they call you back to make sure you got good service. And I went ahead and I requested a fireworks permit from the city. And mine is a corner property, so they've listed it a little differently. I have, wider footage here and a smaller other side. And they wouldn't give me a permit. But the online process just simply declined it, sent it back to me. When I called in, they couldn't find my application. So I think we need to get a little bit more, customer-centric and respect the customer, because this is not just a customer. He's a taxpayer, he's a resident, he's a fellow. We gotta bring that respect to city process.
Mr. Goodman, what would you do if you were elected to keep people engaged?
To keep people engaged, I'll for every Ward 7 and 8 is listed like it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we can have one member from each community representing the views of that area and take their views, and also have council or town hall meetings, right? Maybe in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, as the residents want. Take their opinion, what they want the council to do. Take the issues to the council what the people have suggested, and then move forward. You have to involve each and everyone, even the kids, the elders, the working people, because elders have different problems, kids have different problems, and the working people have different problems. So we have to engage everyone and take them along us and work in the city council for their problems.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I would look at putting a monthly newsletter out to let everyone know exactly what's going on. And I like Mr. Malhotra's idea, putting it onto the internet so that we could watch it any time we want to. I've tried to get a lot of people involved in all sorts of opportunities, but when it's volunteers, it's very, very hard to engage them. So even if you have people in your area who want something, they're not prepared to come out and do anything about it. It's only when they're desperate, there's a pothole at the end of the road, then they're on the phone to you. But if you say, could you come out and help the city? No, they won't do it. So it's difficult to get people engaged. So I would use the people who are already engaged and perhaps pull them together once a month and say, you already have the network, you're already really interested in what's going on, you can spread the news.
Perfect. Mr. Singh, we've got a few seconds left.
It's very easy to engage the residents. If every councillor, mayor, they start posting the expenses on city website. So then everybody will look at those expenses and then start calling the city, why did you spend this money here? Why didn't you spend over there? So that is the best way of engaging the residents if all expenses are posted on website.
And Mr. Alvin, I'm going to give you the brief and final word here.
I think it's lots of volunteers are available. If you're doing a good job, the volunteer is always available.
Wonderful, thank you. It should go. We should make sure we say we are on Rogers Television. They do stream the council meetings on this station. So all the comments about the hours, notwithstanding, there are opportunities sometimes to see them. I want to thank everyone for all your time and your fantastic answers to the questions. We now like to move over to the portion of the event where we'll talk to your closing statements. So we're going to go in the reverse order in which we started, and that means we're going to start off with you, Mr. Guman.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Brampton city has come to crossroads, and now you have the power to change the political landscape of Brampton in the forthcoming elections on October 27th. And if you elect me as your city councillor from Ward 7-8 as your face in Brampton city, I'll ensure that your voice is heard and your needs are met in the council. So please elect me on October 27th. Please vote for Daminder Guman.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bailey, your final statement?
Citizens and residents of Brampton, you've heard 9 different people speak to you this evening. It is up to you now to make a decision. Remember, my points are youth, jobs, waste management, and transit. Those are my priorities. Now, I intend to make sure that Brampton becomes Ontario's, if not Canada's, most livable city. So on October 27th, when you go to the poll, remember, Carla Bailey for City Councillor, Wards 7 and 8.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bailey. Mr. Fortini, your final
Yes,
thoughts?
I'd like to thank the Board of Trades and Rogers for this great event. Everybody talks about university, gridlocks, hospital, lower taxes, all these promises. At the end, once I get in, we never see them. I experienced this for the last 30 years. I will promise not just to contact the people, but to control the spending of our taxpayers' money. Okay? Please take a look at all candidates, not just us, also the candidates in other wards. Find out if they live in the ward. I've noticed that many candidates don't even live in our ward, and they're running here. I find to vote for a candidate that doesn't even live there and lives in a different ward has no interest in the ward where you resign. So please take a look at my website. It's www.patfortini@rogers.ca. Visit my campaign office at 9886 Torbram Road in North Park. My campaign phone number is 905-497-4728 or my cell phone 416-804-2510. I also like to thank Sandra Haynes and Beryl Ford for
Thank
2
you, Mr.
decades.
Fortini. That's your time. Thank you very much. Mr. Sadav?
I want the best representation for Brampton. Whether you vote for me or not, I want you to vote. 33% of eligible voters voted in the last Brampton municipal election. We want to keep our government accountable, we want to keep our government transparent, and we want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. Please come out and vote. There are advanced poll dates, the 11th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, and the 18th, and there's also the election on October 27th. Please come out and vote. Please help improve accountability and democracy in Brampton. And if you're wondering who to vote for, I want to help youth, I want to attract business, and I want to tackle our gridlock problems. Help me help you. Vote for Vinay Sedev, your city councillor for Ward 7 and 8. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sedev. Mr. Singh, your final thoughts?
Dear Brampton citizens, if you wish to see an accountable and transparent City Hall, a sharp focus on new businesses and jobs, a concentrated effort to keep property taxes low, Brampton's own university, significant new initiatives for seniors, strengthening of City Hall through diversity, better solutions for our transit issues, please do vote for me, Sohan Singh, to be your next city councillor from Ward 7 and 8. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Mr. Gupta?
Thank you. Thank you to Rogers and Brampton Board of Trade for hosting this debate and for the opportunity to share my thoughts. On October 27th and also during the advance polls, I look forward to your support and most important, the vote. If you're looking for a professional representation with a proven track record, if you're looking for a passionate community volunteer with for public service, if you're keen to put Brampton back on track, if you want to make Brampton a livable city, if you want to really improve the quality of life, vote for Manan Gupta. On October 27th, I look forward to the honor and privilege of serving wards 7 and 8. For more campaign ideas and for supporting my campaign, visit my website www.manangupta.ca. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. Mr. Alvi, your closing statement?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm involved last 15 years in politics. I ran in 2003 and 2006. At that time, I was saying we need a university in Brampton. These politicians are talking about now, and I was talking about 11 years ago. Property tax, job, recreation center, insurance, these are my first priority. Also for the kids, recreation center. And I'll guarantee you, if you need me, I will be available 24 hours, 7 days a week. My website will be ready in a few days, which is www.alviforbrampton.com, and I hope you will remember me and cross my record, 15-year record, and you will vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alvi. Mr. Malhotra.
So, I will bring a startup culture to Brampton. Startup culture is all about creative problem solving. So we need to do more with what we got. We don't need to always keep on saying, hey, listen, we don't have the finances, we can't do this, or this goes into 2018 budget or 2015 budget. So what I will bring to City Hall is great customer service. I'll bring to City Hall a startup culture where we are doing more with whatever we have and not really just worrying about raising taxes. And if you want to know more about me or know more about where I stand on issues, please visit my website, which is bramptonaj.com. It's bramptonajay.com, or follow me on Twitter, bramptonaj. And I look forward to your support on election, and hopefully together we can make this city one of the best cities in the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malhotra. And Mr. McLaughlin, the final word is yours.
Well, I think we've got an excellent bunch of people here, and I don't see much difference in what we want to see for Brampton. And I think that what everyone has said here is exactly what the people in Brampton want. So why vote for me instead of one of these other good people? Because number one, I'm probably the oldest person here. Number two, I've been around the block a few times. I have managed giant corporations. I have saved a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars in waste. I've been responsible for gutting out criminal organizations within big corporations. I'm also an economist, so I do know how to spend, where to spend, and also to keep track of anything that we're spending. I don't agree that councillors should have a credit card. I think they should have an allowance, and that's it. That would cut down a whole bunch. Also, I'd like to see the city employees get more say in how the city's run, because they really know where the waste is and they can help get rid of it. So vote for me, Archie McLaughlin, on the 27th.
Thank you very much, Mr. McLaughlin, and thank you to all our candidates. This brings our debate to a close. I would like to thank our candidates for joining us, our panelists for their participation, and of course you, our viewers, for tuning in and joining us. On behalf of the Brampton Board of Trade and Rogers Television, we hope you found the discussion to be enlightening, and most importantly, that you make sure that you go out and vote. Finally, please tune into Rogers TV, Cable Channel 10 on election night for complete coverage, including up-to-the-minute results in each of the wards and in-depth analysis. It all takes place on Monday, October 27th on Rogers TV. Thank you very much for watching.